box and says, "You are live." Here we
are.
are. And we'll wait a little bit because it takes a little bit for people, friends to jump on with
Takes me a little bit.
And you, Katja, you will be able to see, you should be able to see the comments when they do come in, but don't feel like you have to try to be navigating that while all of this is going on, because we'll try to pull things out too. So
got it.
So I can see though that I can't see who, but friends, I can see that you're popping on. We'd love to have you, if you would say hi in the chat and let us know that you're here. Laura's with us. Hi, Laura. I'm happy you're here. Is anybody with you, Laura? Laura's got older kids, high school, and graduated, but I'm glad you're here. And if anybody else hops on, please let us know. So while we're waiting for our friends to come on, Crystal, we just jumped right in last week and we didn't even do an introduction. Did you realize that?
No, but I realized all the areas that I made mistakes and I couldn't think of the right words because I was so passionate about last week. I know, look at Katja already.
I know.
So Papaloo is my daughter. Katja, just so you know, Papaloo is my girl.
Yeah. Aw. Laura, I hope your friend's watching with us. That's awesome.
And she's right down the street from me. How exciting is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was a little bummed about my words, and I know Katja's shaking her head at me because I'm starting off with a negative, but it was a hard one because I was so excited. And then when I realized all the words I didn't say right.
Well, what's funny is there's not any wrong in this because it's not scripted and you always say that. And it's about just being real and you don't do it wrong.
Oh, well, we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
You'll get it.
Okay.
You'll get it. Okay.
All
so,
right.
Yeah, I don't know why Shayna is Papaloo either, but she's coming across as Papaloo. You know, speaking of that, her Papaloo is her business, Katja, that she started, and she does matching masks and dog and cat bandanas and tail holders, ponios. In New York, is everybody still wearing masks or no?
It's starting to fizzle out. They've been doing a big vaccine push, so a lot of people are but restaurants, stores, still everyone's still masked, so it's kind of a mixed bag.
So same here. Okay, if you want to do introductions, I was just curious.
Well, it's really interesting because even being in Oregon, they're like, I don't know if they have phases like we do, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, but they're like a phase behind us if they are in phases. Like restaurants are still only at 50%, masks are mandated still everywhere. Excuse me. It was really interesting to be there because they're definitely a lot stricter still than we are here.
Yeah, we're pretty open.
Yeah, we are. Well, they're letting us, basically be responsible for ourselves. We have to just trust if you're not wearing a mask, you're vaccinated because that's what they're asking. But who knows? Teach their own. I'll just take care of me. That's been a lot easier. So, all right. So yes, so I'll introduce myself. If we have anyone new with us or even watching the replay, thank you all of you for being here with us tonight. And my name is Sherra Grasser. I'm a youth empowerment coach and the founder and director of MePowerment programs. Beyond the Classroom is just, it's been kind of something that's been happening before we even went live, where my sister of the heart, Crystal, and I would just get together and just share what was going on in our worlds and happening outside the classrooms and concerns and excitement and just the things in the world of youth and families. And we decided to, I don't know what, 4 months ago now, Crystal? I don't know how long ago it was, but it's been about probably, we decided that we would just start going live so that we could include more of our friends in the conversations. And we've been rich. I love having those individuals with us. I'm also the mom of 2 young adults. Tyler is 25 and my daughter Emmy is 22.
Okay, following that, I am Crystal and I am the sister of the heart because she is the sister of my heart. And I have 2 adult children as well. and a bonus child because my son's girlfriend, I truly claim her as ours. Yeah, I work at an elementary school. My passion is youth and them feeling empowered and great about themselves. And but I am finding a new passion with this live and talking with our youth parents, right? Like there's a connection there, and I'm all about connection. And then we stumbled across this another sister of our heart, Katja, and we absolutely, Sherra and I, not even intentionally, didn't even know that this was happening, but we both fell in love with Katja and her
I
heart.
did first. Just kidding.
Did you say you did first?
Well, you talked to me first, too.
That's why. I know. I was up one.
So the truth is, Sherra got to her first, and then I stole her because I spent more time with her.
That is true.
Yeah.
I'll let you have that.
But we share. So Katja, tell us who you are, and so that our community can see what it is about you that we adore.
Yeah, so I'm Katja Bavendam. Don't worry about getting the name right. It's very hard for Americans. I get it. My boss calls me Katja, so that ship has sailed. Because if you don't correct people day one, you kind of in that awkward phase. So anyway, so I'm was born and raised in Germany, and I came here in 2004. I've spent most of my time here in New York City. I came on a basketball scholarship, so I was just 19 when I came over here. And then, did some professional basketball in Europe and all that stuff. But basically, New York has been sort of my adult home, my chosen home away from home. Fell in love with the city the first day I came here. And yeah, so I came here, did the basketball thing, 4 years of Division I college, and then went and played professionally in Spain for a few years. Came back for grad school when that ended pretty tragically, so we'll get to that. And then I ended up in the civil engineering field and got a big girl job, and that's been 7 or 8 years of that now. And then I got tired of it, and this is how I stumbled across you guys, because as probably most viewers know, Sherra, that you are both a life coach and a life coach educator.
Yes.
And also an admissions advisor at the Seattle Life Coach Training School. And you reeled me in real quick. So, yes. So this is how we all know each other, and here we are.
Yay.
Wonderful. So good.
Yes. Okay, so how old were you when you came from Germany to play ball?
So I was 19. So in Germany, school is pretty long because, we have a better education system, obviously. No, but I was so 9.
Crystal took that personally.
I didn't. I'm okay.
Well, here you graduate, even if you're a young graduate, you're like maybe just out of 17 sometimes, right? Or you're like you're 18. But when I was going to school, 19 was like the standard age.
Okay.
But yeah, I had never left not by myself. I had done, the junior national basketball team and sort of, traveled around Europe, but always with a team. But this was the first time that, my parents just put me on a plane and sent me off to America. And so it was definitely exciting. I didn't have, like a recruiting visit or anything. And I had never, I hadn't had a video call with the coaching staff. We didn't really know each other. So we just knew each other through phone calls because this is 2004, right? Where not everyone had WhatsApp and FaceTime and Skype, right? The internet was just becoming more accessible for everyone. So all they saw of me was a little video of me dunking on a little side basket. And they had found out about me from another German player who had gone to my same college a few years before me. I don't know how she ended up there, but we played against each other in Germany, and she told the coaching staff about me and said, there's this really tall girl who, who can run in a straight line and doesn't stumble over her own feet, and she looks like she's about ready for college, so you should check her out. And then they called my parents' landline, because that's how you got in touch with people.
Right.
And my dad would pick up the phone. He speaks zero English, and he'd be like, "Katja, America!" And then he'll put me on the phone, and they called, and then they just basically convinced me, and then there I was.
Wow.
And your parents didn't get on the plane with you?
No, but I think my best friend was at the airport. My dad is. I get my emotional crying side from my dad, but I think my friend, who's also not a very emotional person, she broke at the airport, like my best childhood friend. So she started crying, and then my mom and my dad and my sister, and I kept it in somehow. Like sometimes I respond to emotional stuff very like stoically, and then once I was at the gate by myself, it was like, wah! It was more like that I was making all these people cry. I felt really bad because I was happy to go on my adventure, right? So, but I was making them all feel really sad. So, but yeah, that was the story of how I came here. So.
And so you've been in New York, what? How many years?
I mean, like 17 on and off, right? Except for that little exploration in Spain and in Turkey. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And when you and I were talking the other day, basketball wasn't the only sport that you played or you were stellar at. Is that true?
No. So, I mean, I was a tomboy, right? And just like always running around. I was raised very much. I don't know if you've ever heard the term German, like free range parenting, where they just throw you, they like, put a watch on your wrist, a little kitty watch, and they're like, go play, be careful when you run across the street, and, be back at 6 p.m. So I was always out running around. I biked myself 3 miles to school when I was 8 years old with my friends with our little pink helmets, right? So it was a very independent childhood, but also very protected because, my parents were just they weren't strict, but they definitely, also weren't super lax. My dad is a retired police officer, so he was definitely worried about safety and stuff. And but I was just playing all the sports, very, just athletic. And but basketball was not, I didn't even know what basketball was growing up, because it's not like it's one of the major sports like it is here, right? There's soccer in Germany. And soccer, right? Pretty much. Like there was a big tennis boom in the 90s, right? I don't know if you remember Steffi Graf, who's now married to Andrew Agassi. I loved her. I wrote my college essay about her. So I played tennis for a few years. My sister played with me. And then I tried out track and field. And then eventually basketball sort of just found me. And somebody said, well, you should try it out. Because obviously I don't know if we've mentioned this, I'm 6'8", and I was always taller than everyone else, right? Like I was always taller than the tallest boy. So, even from even my, when I was like 5, like a kindergarten or pre-K picture, we had a really short teacher. She was maybe like 5 feet, 4'11" or something like that. And I was pretty much her height, right? And like at 5 years old. So I was just always tall. And I grew up in a really small town and in a tight community, and with the same friends from, pre-K through graduating high school, which is why it wasn't a thing. It was a thing, but it wasn't. There wasn't like this, vicious bullying, or like high school wasn't hard or anything because of it, because we just all grew up with each other, and I was just always taller than everyone else. Was there some bullying at some point? Yes, because I was also, I cry easily. And when someone's taller than everyone else, you could just kind of like add another piece of ammunition, right? So it's like, oh, beanstalk or whatever, or, it's just, but yeah. So anyway, played all the sports, and my mom eventually said, well, pick one, right? Because again, not like the type of mom that you'll find today often, like in the American suburbs, right? Where they're driving their kids around to soccer, to violin practice, to, my mom was like, well, pick one and I'll drive you until you're old enough to drive yourself, and good luck. My mom has maybe come to, I don't know, 4 games over, the 10 years that I played basketball. So she was supportive, but she wasn't like this hype, hype mom.
You're probably glad I was not your mother. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Well, I mean, I love that you can feel that she was supportive and she loved what you did and she was proud of you. Like, you're right. Here is so different. Like, I couldn't imagine not going to every single game or race. My kids raced and baseball and softball, and when I couldn't go, I felt like the worst parent. So I love that she wasn't there and you just knew that was okay, but she still supported you. Like, that's really awesome.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a little bit of both. I don't know what parents are like in Germany these days. I think it's both a sign of the times and maybe a bit of a cultural thing, but it was definitely very different than like how I see my friends now who have kids, how they are with their kids. Just seems like a lot. So, but yeah, so picked basketball and it just kind of slowly progressed, right? Obviously, it helped to be really tall, and I also, I was a hard worker and became sort of, build up my talent. And the problem was that I was outgrowing the skill level of my local teams that were available to me. And so I started playing around 14, so pretty late, right? And then around 16, 17, it became clear that that I had potential to sort of outgrow my local area. And so the option was to be shipped off to like a, sports boarding school, which I didn't want because I was very happy in my little town and with my parents, had a good home life, or to go to a team that was 2 hours away, one way, right? So, for one practice 3 times a week took me 7 hours pretty much, because it would be a 2-hour train ride, or 2 hours door to door, then a 2-hour practice, take a shower, go back to the train. Sometimes you miss your transfer. So I would leave around 2, 3 p.m. And if everything worked out with the train back, I would come back at 10 p.m. or sometimes at 11. My mom always waited up for me with a sandwich. And and that's just what I did. And from, 17, 18, 19, it was just, basketball was just my single-minded focus in life. My room was just plastered with life-sized, cutouts and Michael Jordan and Lisa Leslie and, so, and the WNBA was becoming a thing. So this dream was starting to build, right? So, yeah.
Oh my, I just like, I wish I knew you then. Like, I love that. Oh, Lisa Leslie, like, that's a blast from the past, right?
Yeah. So she had she had a little book out, and this was probably like, the first times I was reading. Obviously, I was learning English in school and I was reading English books as school assignments, but all the English books, like written in English, that I chose to read in my free time were, Michael Jordan's autobiography, Lisa Leslie's autobiography, right? And and I was watching like every single basketball movie and very into the whole hip hop culture that was attached to it back in the early 2000s, right? So it was just, I really wanted to go play college basketball, but I didn't know how to go about it, and I had already given up on it. And then this accidentally happened with this player who had played against me. And then, so I didn't have this choice, right, that high school kids have today, high school athletes, these recruiting visits and calls from coaches, or this anxiety if you're going to be recruited by the school you really want to go to, and then you have a backup school, and maybe if I don't get Division I, maybe I'll go Division II. And, I didn't have any of that. I was just recruited by one single school.
Right.
And I didn't know the difference between, St. Francis College where I went and UConn, not athletically nor academically. I had no idea. Ignorance was bliss.
Absolutely.
And I was so drawn by New York City, obviously.
Sure.
That was and then it was just like on TV.
Oh my God. So when you came over here, and for anyone that just has hopped on, came alone, like without your family, like you were packed up and your family sent you off for school and to play ball, right? I mean, that was, they were doing their job. This opportunity was here for you. What was your biggest, what was the biggest, oh my God, shell shock for you coming from, because the smaller community where you grew up, where everybody knew each other, and then you come into, of all places, really, Katja, New York.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be more opposite.
Right.
But I think also this is the thing, I think, in sports, and maybe especially women's sports or girls' sports, that no matter where you go, even if you come by yourself, you instantly have, your sisters or friends. And you have these, I don't want to call my coaches parents, but this surrogate parental figures that are taking care of you, right?
Sure.
So it was this, and it's not like I had to, find a place to live and, worry about rent. It was a full scholarship. I was picked up at the airport. Here's your dorm room.
You had a community waiting for you, basically.
Yes. And then, I don't know, I loved exploring the city by myself. I just got, a subway pass, and just on the weekends, I would take my little guidebooks, tourist guidebooks. So I would just take my little guidebook and just explore all the things. And I remember there's this spot in Brooklyn where, my college is located, and down the street from us, there's this promenade that's a little elevated above a highway, but it's a pedestrian promenade. And from there, you can see the whole Manhattan skyline, including the Brooklyn Bridge and, Empire State Building, all the big attractions. And they took me there my first night and took me to get some really good New York pizza. And I was just like, okay, cool, I'm in. I'll stay here. It's fine. And then the hard work began. So.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit more what that hard work means. What did that look like for you?
I mean, I'm obviously grateful for the opportunity to have been on a full scholarship, especially even though I couldn't fully appreciate in the moment. Right. But I now know that if you're, a student athlete in high school in the US and it's your intention to go, it's about, you have to kind of win the lottery to get a full D1 scholarship. I'm very aware of the slim chances. But it's brutal, because you're a full-time student. So I think, what's that? 18 credits in college, 20, whatever, right? So 18 hours of school. So, and then because we had practice, we were all advised to, to take all of our classes in the morning, practices in the afternoon.
Right.
And then we had as freshmen, we had mandatory study hall. We had these freshman chores where we had to wash the practice uniform and lift weights, watch film. Yeah. So, and our campus was an urban campus, really more like a high school than your traditional college campus, just one building in Brooklyn. The training room, the weight room was in the basement, along with the pool for the water polo and the swim team. Above that was the basketball gym, and then above that was the volleyball gym, and then the classrooms were sort of all around it.
Oh, wow.
So, but that also meant that when you went to campus at 8 a.m. in the morning for class, you didn't leave until 8 or 9 p.m., right? You're just in that building. And my coaching staff was definitely tough in the sense that they believed in more is more. And I think, not to scare any aspiring college athlete parents here, but Division I athletics can border a little bit on, neglect and abuse. Like, it's because, the kids just get, because you're young and you can push, young 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, you can push them to the limit and they're not going to say no, right? It's this like, well, if I run you until you puke, then it was a good practice. It's like that culture, right?
Right.
So it was rough, and I am a sensitive soul. So it was and I process anger and frustration through tears. So there was a lot of crying, which then that's seen as weakness. And then everyone's getting on you for being weak. And, so it was, it was tough, but, I found my way through it. So.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yes. And did you play all 4 years?
I did, yes.
And then went on to play internationally.
Yes. So I had a shot at the WNBA, but my senior year was rough because so in the summers, I would go home and basically play on the equivalent of Team USA, so the national selection of Germany. And we would have our European Cup, right? And stuff like that. We'd play against other European teams. And I got hurt that summer, or rather they found an injury that really was more of an overuse injury. But I came back off of a knee surgery into my senior year and wasn't 100%. My coaches really wanted me to redshirt. I don't know if everyone knows what that means. It means you get you sit a year out, and you get an extra year of eligibility to play in the NCAA. And I mean, you never know what people's intentions are, but they were losing 4 seniors that year. So I'm sure they wanted the best for me, but I think they also wanted the best for them.
Absolutely.
And I was ready to move on because I had the school, I wasn't challenged really academically at that school, and that there weren't any master's degrees that I could have pursued because it was really a 4-year college, not a full university. And I was just, I think, and I was 23, right? And surrounded by, little 18-year-old freshmen, and I was just ready to go, which then, I think there were mistakes on both parts. I think my coaches then took that as me not wanting to be there. And so it was a rough year all around.
Yes.
And my knee never fully healed, but they did get me an opportunity with the San Antonio Silver Stars at the time to go to training camp. And I just wasn't ready. Maybe if I had been at 100% and had the type of year that I had as a junior, because that was my best year, maybe I would have had a shot, but it was just kind of like, try it out, get through it. And then, I got my 2 seconds of fame in the WNBA in the preseason game, and then they sent me off. And then I went to play pro in Turkey for half a year and then 2.5 years in Spain.
Yeah. Wow. And then you came back to New York.
Yes. So then that whole pro basketball thing ended in a really bad injury. So I was in Spain, and we had maybe 2 games left in the season. My parents had just visited. It's a gorgeous little town in the north of Spain. Wow. And I had the sense the season wasn't going super well. So I had a feeling like this was going to be my last season there. So I had told my parents, if you want to come stay here and, go on vacation in this beautiful place, come now before the season ends. And they had literally just left that morning. It was an odd game in the middle of the week. Usually they're on the weekends. And I had a rough start with my coach. I started the game, but then he took me out and gave me some passive-aggressive comments. I gave him some passive-aggressive comments back. It was not good. Sat me out for the rest of the half, didn't start me the second half, which if you know basketball and coaching, that's like, come on.
Yeah.
So if you're not starting your starters the second half.
Yeah.
So eventually he puts me back, and he's just kind of like looking at me like, you ready to go back in? I'm like, sure, dude. The season was over, right? It didn't matter if we were winning or losing. We were all over it. And I was maybe on the court for 30 or 45 seconds, and it was just a normal situation. Sort of a long shot went up. A couple people went up for the rebound, and I think it was my own teammate, but someone like a splashy guard came flying in, trying to steal the rebound from all the big people, and she just like smashed into my leg from a very unfortunate angle. And I ended up with a tibial plateau fracture, which is the type of injury that you usually get if you're hit by a car, or if you're Lindsey Vonn and you're crashing down the mountain at 80 miles an hour. That's the type of injury that I got on the basketball court. So really lucky there. And it was just a funny moment. It's just like, I knew obviously something was bad in my knee, because when I tried to put any weight on it, it just felt like a cooked spaghetti. I just couldn't put any, my knee, my joint wasn't holding me up. But everyone was frustrated and occupied with the game that we were losing. And in hindsight, I understand why no one was really paying attention to me. But in the moment, I was like, is anyone gonna help me out here? Because they just gave me an ice bag and an ibuprofen, right? Like you would if you sprain an ankle. And I didn't understand. I was like, why is everyone so nonchalant about this? And then and I must have had it wasn't even like I was hysterical because I had just gotten hurt, but I was just in so much pain that there was just this like steady like stream of tears coming down my face. And I could watch my knee just like blow up like that, right? And I must have also been really pale. And so eventually a teammate looks over at me and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not. So then she starts screaming at the doctor in Spanish, like, get her something for the pain. He comes over, rams a shot into my arm. But no one called an ambulance. No one wanted to get me crutches because the Spaniards are super superstitious. So they think if you touch the crutches, you're next to go, right? You're next to be injured. So, and my teammates took me to the hospital in the back of a Ford Focus, which is a very small car.
And you are very tall.
I was in the back with my bum knee kind of propped up. We were still in our sweaty uniforms. It was getting late, and I was like, you guys, we should go through the McDonald's drive-thru because this is going to be a long night. So we did. And got some Mac-E's on the way to the hospital. They x-rayed me. They're like, it's a fracture. Put me in a cast because their super surgeon was out for the weekend. He was at a conference where all the super surgeons go. And they just put my whole leg in a cast. And I have very long legs. So it was a big cast. And so anyway, did the surgery. It's like everything went great, and even though it didn't. And, you'll be playing in a few months. Like, you'll be fine. So during the surgery, I was awake. I chose to be awake because that wasn't my first rodeo with a knee surgery. And I've had a couple of other broken bones. So I knew my surgery game. And so I had asked to be awake. So it was basically like a spinal tap, right? And you're just, numb from the waist down. But the surgery took much longer than it was supposed to. And I think they weren't quite on point with the anesthesia. So at some point I could feel him drilling into my leg, basically. Not like a horror movie, like, oh my God, but I could definitely feel it and I could hear it. And I was like, hello. And they're like, what's wrong? Like, it hurts. And they're like, what hurts? I'm like, my knee. And then they put me to sleep. So just like all didn't go very well. But they were like, oh, you'll be fine. No pasa nada. You're all good. Finally, I had to be there for 7 weeks because I couldn't walk at all. This is like this is the type of injury where you just have to wait for the bone to heal. And my mom came back, got on a plane by herself because she, I was telling her, she was always asking me like, what are you eating? I'm like, well, frozen pizza again, because I can't stand in the kitchen and cook. So I can drag myself put a frozen. She's like, does your old mother have to come and take care of you? I'm like, I'm not going to make you, but, yes.
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 So she came, and it was actually a good time. We played Scrabble and, dominoes, and she got away from her husband for a few weeks, which was probably good for her. And finally went back home to Germany, and the surgeon there, sort of my guy that, my sports doctor, he took one look at the x-ray and he's like, das ist scheiße, right? Which means that's, shit.
Yep.
And
I know that word.
And and then he was like, we have to do this again. I'm like, what do you mean? So I'd already been healing for 7 weeks. And and so he had to take all the metal out of there, right? The screws, the plate, take it all out. Basically, we break the bone and retry it. And much different tune from the German doctors. Very much. Can you hear my dog growling?
No.
Okay. Very much like, we don't want to say this to you. We want to send athletes back on the court. But if you want to, walk when you're 40, just maybe consider hanging them up,
Yeah.
And he was like, when you were in the MRI, I took a peek at your other knee, and you just have the knees of a 50-year-old.
Oh.
And I was 26, and I was like, okay, yeah. And then I stopped. I was very lucky that I could recover at my parents' house, and it was almost 6 months on crutches at that point because I had lost those 7 weeks in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I had come from I was in the shape of my life, my absolute physical peak at 26. I was taking my, my extra workouts and my nutrition very seriously. And it's probably the only time I had the resemblance of a 2-pack in my life, my abs. And then I went from 100 to 0 for 6 months, right? And so everything was atrophied, and I think just going on a new adventure, and I was exploring all the things, going back to university in Germany, doing work and travel in Australia, but I somehow I ended up back on a plane to New York City, and through basketball connections, got into a master's program at NYU really quickly. They waived the GRE for me and everything, and got me in past their enrollment deadline and all that good stuff. And so it took off from there, and got my master's degree in 3 semesters and started a job. So I think I never really took time to grieve the loss of my basketball career. I just kind of kept going, which, is often glorified, but I probably should have taken some time to be sad.
I would say so. Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of trauma in there. I'm feeling, do you feel like you've grieved it yet, or do you?
Well, there was about a year after that injury happened, something drew me to looking up that game, because our games were always filmed, and the game that I got injured, our games were always filmed and put on YouTube, and something made me look up that game. And it was almost exactly a year after it had happened. And I watched it, and it was for the first time I understood why everyone had been so nonchalant, because it looked like nothing, right? But in my head, it was one of those injuries where, you have a bone sticking out and the whole gym goes, oh God, like this gory. That's how I experienced it. But what it looked like to the outside was just like a couple of people fight for the rebound, big girl goes down, holds her knee, limps off the court, they give her an ice bag, bye, she'll be fine.
Yeah.
And that was both good to understand, how other people had perceived it, but it also made me so mad and so sad, because I'm like, this is how I'm going out. Like, I guess I would have rather taken the dramatic bone sticking out, in a way, because that would have justified, well, obviously I'm done, because that was the other thing. A lot of people ask me, well, why didn't you try to come back? Because, just taking the doctor's advice to stop playing is not what an athlete does. usually.
Right.
Usually it's
Right.
always this like forced comeback story and mind over matter and, this, grit, and you push through and you create this miracle and the doctors are wrong. And I didn't do that. I was just like, well, you're telling me that if I want to walk when I'm 40, I should let it go. So I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was all of that. And I had probably the first real like anxiety attack or panic attack in my life when I watched that video. I was just like hyperventilating, and I was just like, it was just, so a lot going on. So yes, eventually I did, I did grieve it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have this little bit of a story with my daughter, getting her knee blown out on the court.
Yeah.
Just, and it was in high school. And so I can't imagine when you're in a position of where this looks like your career and this is your world in that moment, right? It's everything.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, now you're done.
Yeah. It was just 10 years of, it had been, because I started really getting serious at 16, like I said, and I was 26 and that was it. It was like, okay. And obviously in hindsight, like I had already kind of questioned, do I want to do this until I'm 38? And I'm just like dragging my ass on the court. And because I also knew that wasn't the only thing I was good at. I knew I had a brain and other interests. And so it was almost like, be careful what you wish for, because that whole season, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But I would have never had the courage to retire at 26 at my physical prime, right? With a very, likely path to the WNBA eventually. And, so the universe made that decision for me, as it tends to do.
Yes, it does.
And yeah.
You just saying how you had other gifts, you had other strengths, and one of them, it's interesting to me that you said, like, I have a brain. And I'm thinking, yeah, you didn't just go for something simple. Like, what is your job? Because it's a big deal.
Oh, so I ended up, I was always a math and science person. And so I went for a degree in transportation planning and engineering, which is sort of a subfield of civil engineering. Yeah. And so it was, just kind of became a civil engineer, self-taught.
Okay, so what would you say was your biggest gift in basketball?
Oh God, that's a good question. I think, so I like to call myself a recovering people pleaser.
Oh, God.
Which, you
really are, sister.
And I now primarily see it as, I don't want to say as something negative, but something I worked on, right? Something I'm trying to sort of overcome, because it got me in trouble in relationships. But I think it also made me a very coachable player. And I don't know what came first, the sports or the people pleasing, but it works out well in sports on a high level if you're a people pleaser, especially when, you end up with a coach who will give you positive. If your reward is a good job and all you ever want to hear is a good job because you're a people pleaser, you're going to give everything to that coach, right?
Yeah.
And to your teammates, because you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to let them down. And so that was both my strength and my weakness, because I was also very hard on myself when I didn't please people. But I think I was very, I was disciplined and a hard worker, and, took it very seriously, didn't do anything stupid, right? So I think I was just a good sort of student athlete.
Wow.
Silly question, but today, if there was a student, watching this that has a real big passion for a sport, but they're just not sure, like, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard pushing through the drama of, the other kids, and if struggling with the, am I good enough? I mean, what would you say to them? Would you encourage them to push themselves? Would you encourage them to Like, because I mean, you went through a lot, and you didn't go as far as you thought you would go. So what would you encourage them like?
Yeah, I'm like, oh, well, kids, this is a cautionary tale. No, but you know what? So here's the positive.
Yeah.
I, you know, I got to a point where I got, I got to live my dream, right? I got to be paid for the sports that I loved playing, right? And it also,
Love that.
it took me around the world, right? It took
Yeah.
me, and I made, so, and I get goosebumps saying this, but my biggest gift that I received was that I made friends from all different kinds of cultures and backgrounds, like long lasting, like, lifetime friendships. Like, my best friend in college was, a Dominican girl who grew up in a rough neighborhood in New York City. And we couldn't have been more different from our backgrounds. And we became best friends. And she's one of my best friends to this day. And so that's the kind of stuff that you get when you don't just get the scholarship and the accolades maybe, or the free ride or whatever. You get to go on this experience with very few people who also are on this experience. And so to answer your question, Crystal, I would, if a kid loves it, you should absolutely do it. Go for it.
You would do it again, I guess, is really what I should have asked.
Oh, 100%. Yes. Yes. And there wasn't even, obviously there was hesitation when, about leaving home, alone and going to a different country and all that. But I was just so excited, just like, yeah, this is my basketball dream. And I guess the other thing that I want to say about that is that the whole pushing through, right, and drama and all that, I would say for a kid or even a parent who's watching their kid go through it, does it feel like sacrifice? Because it shouldn't feel, because yes, it looked like sacrifice on paper, right? To be on the train for 2 hours to go to one practice and to leave your family behind and to not have, be able to go party with your friends on the weekend.
Right.
But for me, I never once said to my parents, like, oh my God, this is so hard. I mean, maybe I did, but that wasn't my narrative. My narrative was like, I'm so happy to go to practice, right? Even if it means that I'm gone for 7 hours. Or like, I'm so happy that we're playing this game this weekend, even if it means I'm missing out on a trip with my friends who are, going to across the border to smoke legal weed in Holland, So it's like, so it's just, and that's the thing. And so I think that's kind of the check mark for me. Like, does this feel like a big sacrifice, or is it something you want to do?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense. And I think about it also, like, does it feel like I'm doing it because my parents love this sport? Or does it feel like I'm doing this because my best friend is doing it? Or does it feel like because that I really love what I'm doing and I can't wait to do it tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right? There's a big difference.
There is. Yes, there is. And again, I don't know what that feels like when, you're being sort of, I don't know, your dad went to a certain school and was a big basketball star there, and they kind of want that same for you, or, I don't know what that feels like. So I feel like very lucky that I never had to even contemplate that, because it really was just about me. And, but yeah, I mean, I think that's the marker where.
Well, and honestly, that marker or that example can be taken in any passion or any goal in life, or any school activity that you are participating in, or for our whole community. Am I really passionately doing it for me, or am I doing it because that's the expectation of somebody else? I mean, that's a good measure, and I appreciate that takeaway.
Oh,
sure.
me too. It's like, and I'm like, the question, like, am I living my dream? Like,
Yeah.
you stepped into the dream. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
I did. Yeah. And that's, I feel very blessed that I did.
Yeah.
What else was I going to say? But yeah, I mean, like I said, those gifts, just the friendships and the different cultures. I mean, it has made me I was from a small town in Germany, right? And I would have never been exposed to someone from, let's just call it a tough neighborhood, or for, some of my teammates, that was their only way to ever go to college. They were the first people in their family to ever go to college, right? And so I truly think that my college experience made me not ever like treat people differently because of, where they're coming from or what they look like, or, it's not that I don't see the differences. I hate when people say that. I don't see the differences. I only see hard work. Like, we all see it.
Yeah.
But it's, the question is what you do with it, right?
Right.
And so I
true.
I am very grateful that I got to do all of that. I got to, when I was in grad school, I lived with my best friend, from college in the Bronx, where I was the only, white person in the whole neighborhood, right? And so it just allowed me to, to just meet all these different people and just get to love them for who they were, not for where they came from, or, or even their talent in basketball, whatever, because you're not necessarily friends with the star of the team. You're friends with who you're friends with because because you click, right? And because you have fun, or because you can cry together or whatever. So yeah, so that's totally worth it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. It has been so easy to listen to you and your story. And I'm like just sitting here. I want more and more. And I realize
Well, I'm like, we need part two. Like, we haven't even stepped into relationships, reality TV.
Well, let's keep going.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, I definitely need a part two, because I'm kind of awestruck in the fact that you were on reality TV, because I do like reality TV. However, I didn't watch your show, and now I'm gonna have to go find it. But I do have, I personally have a student I get to work with at 7:05 today, because he asked me to listen to his project, so practice. So I know I'm so proud that he asked me to do that. And but I really want to know, like, where in all of this did you end up into this reality TV?
Yeah.
Well, I can probably tell that pretty quickly. So,
or you might want to tell it quickly. Which one is it?
No, but I really can, because there really wasn't that much to it. So, but when I was in grad school, I met my ex-wife just on a dating app, met instantly, big love, spent every day together. And, I'm 6'8", she is 5'2". I always want to say she was 5'2", but she's alive. So she's 5'2", and then this show came out on TLC, My Giant Life. I was not on the first season. It's not something that I would pursue, right? I wouldn't write the casting directors. But we were watching the show, naturally, because it's a show about women 6'6" and taller. So obviously I was watching it because that's, and we were like, oh God, this show is terrible. We would make this show so much better, right? And
I love that.
And then someone from let's just call it the tall community. You know how, like, when MySpace and Facebook was a place where you met strangers, like now it's like you're friends with your real life friends. But so I had this tall Facebook friend, and she wasn't tall enough, but she was in LA, and she said, hey, I'm not tall enough, but you are. And I know the producers of the show. I'm sure you've seen it. Do you want me to put you in touch with the casting director? And I was like, sure, why not? sure, why not? And then next thing you know, there's a Skype interview, and then they're like, ooh, lesbians. Ooh, not scary. Ooh, not scary looking lesbians. Ooh, lesbians with a 1.5 foot height difference. Ooh, lesbians who want to have a baby. Like, they were just like, oh yeah, we can, play that up real good on reality TV, because it's all about, sensational stuff, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so they wanted us on the show, and, it was, made a little extra cash. And I like reality TV. I like watching it.
Me too.
And it was a chance to look, behind the curtain and see how it's made. And it just seemed like a fun project on the side, a little extra cash, something else to do besides sitting in the office and being a civil engineer. And yeah, and then we did it, and we ended up doing season 2 and 3, and then the show didn't get renewed. But yeah, it was interesting because you really get reduced down to your storyline, right? Like I said, right. Katja and her tiny wife are trying to have a baby, and then it just picked. It would just pick for every episode, it would just zero in on basically the first season we did was who's going to carry the baby, right? And then the second season was who's going to be the sperm donor. So it was very very surface level, which is why it was also fine, because it's not like we were going into our deepest, darkest secrets and they were, filming us fight or anything like that, because it was kind of like half scripted. But that's how that came along. Again, just kind of like by, somebody knew me and was like, we put in touch, and I was like, sure. And yeah, and reality TV is actually really hard to do well, because I had a hard time because they want you to be authentic. And the biggest compliments I've gotten from people is that they were like, you guys, you and your wife seemed like the most authentic people. Oh. So I was like, thank you. Yeah. But also that made it harder, because they wanted a certain, sometimes they wanted the sob story of how life is so hard when you're so tall, and and then, but they're trying to get there organically, because that makes for better TV if it just comes out organically in your own words. Right. But you wouldn't organically get a sob story from me that it's so hard to fit into a cab in New York City. My life is so hard because I can't fit my long legs into a cab, that just wasn't happening. Yeah. So I would just get frustrated with the producers, because I was like, dude, if you need me to say that cabs are uncomfortable, just tell me and I'll say it for you. Just script me the line, right? Right. So it was interesting, and the best moments of the show were things that just happened, spontaneously. They had us pushing down our friend's stroller down the street to practice pushing a stroller.
Oh my God.
And then there was a dead pigeon on the New York City sidewalk with its head cut off. And we almost stepped and we were like, oh, gross, right? And that made the show, because it kind of just showed our dynamic and a real authentic moment. So reality TV is interesting. And now I can't watch reality TV anymore without being like, oh, that's the producer, that's produced, that's not. Yeah. So it's ruined it a little bit for me.
What I love though about it is that's a totally different experience you shared than I thought you would share. Honestly, I rarely hear anything good about reality TV experiences. And so I kind of love it, because guilty pleasure, I love watching it.
Yeah. And you know what? The producers were all very nice people. Sure. It was the first season that the field producer and I didn't quite click, which is why it was harder for me. And then they kind of swapped it out. And they were just, and I'm still friends with some of the producers to this day. And they were just doing their job, right? I mean, they would rather make meaningful documentaries probably than, asking me how hard it is to buy pants. Right. So, that's not what they want to do with their film school education, and, but here they are making a living. So
Exactly.
no, it was a positive experience. Some parts of it were hard. Obviously, the few disagreements that we did have, my ex-wife and I, or the things that we disagreed about and that aired, was tough to watch sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but most of it was fine. But yeah, there would just be funny moments. We would be in upstate New York in a Walmart. In the city, not so much, but we would be in a Walmart and you just see this older lady, she's eyeing us from down the aisle. She's pushing her cart and she's looking to the side and she's like, "So who's going to carry the baby?" And we were like,
For real?
yeah. And we're like, well, you're just going to have to watch. It would just be the most,
because she knew from she was watching the show.
So, and I'm very recognizable. And then with the height difference, we as a unit, as a couple, were very recognizable.
Yeah.
So it would happen on hiking trails. So I would be going to lunch, on my lunch break with my coworker, and just a random delivery guy would roll down his window in his truck and be like, "Hey, good luck with the baby and everything." I'd be like, "I didn't think you were the target audience, but that's cool."
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for caring.
Yeah. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
There's so much more to this story. Like,
I know.
Well.
So would you come back?
I would, but I do want to say that maybe we can wrap this up with just the experience of being tall.
I love that.
Because so the reason why that kind of stuff, a stranger shouting something at me from across the aisle at Walmart, that wasn't a new experience. Because, when you're tall, and we all shared that, all the cast members and everything, I think people generally see height as something positive. And then especially if you look like an athlete, right?
Right.
And so they then feel entitled to say something to you. And most times it's positive, right? So don't get me wrong. Being told that you should be a model and a professional athlete 5 times a day, it's nice. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is a lot of just, "Hey, how tall? I got to know, how tall are you? What shoe size do you wear? Are your parents tall?" There's just a lot of, people coming at you. And, so for the parents with kids who are struggling with being, teenagers, because that was probably the only time that I really struggled with it. And not the height itself, but the fact that there was something about me that was different, that I couldn't do anything about, right? Couldn't put makeup on it, couldn't hide it, couldn't hide it under clothes or whatever. It wasn't going to go away. And so, it's not even, I came to the conclusion that I liked women much later in life, and that wasn't a big struggle. But just always from, a young age, how tall are you? Are your parents tall? Is your boyfriend tall? Where do you find clothes? All of this, just constantly. And I always want to be like, I don't ask you, how much you weigh. If I see an overweight person, I don't go up to them in the street like, "Excuse me, I just have to ask, how much do you weigh? Are your parents fat? Where do you find clothes? Is your girlfriend fat too?" You don't do that. Yeah. But for some reason, with tall people, people feel like it's positive, and that's why they feel comfortable doing that. So
I think there's a whole another hour just around this conversation.
Sure.
For real. Like, I'm looking at, just thinking of some of the kids that I work with and what they're already sharing with me. And I'm like, oh my God. Wow. Like, there is so much in this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to come back.
Part 2.
I obviously love talking about myself. This is.
It's so much bigger than that. I do. I just think you have so much wisdom in your experience, Katja, that really, like, your story is a gift.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing to point out about it, I don't know why we're echoing, but the other thing The other thing to point out about it, Katja, is that somebody like myself, I would go into stories like this thinking, assuming of the hard first. Like, oh, this story is going to be so hard. Oh, it had to be hard to have people saying stuff to you like that all the time. But you don't tell the story like that. So it's almost, well, it's definitely an easy listen to, and it's a feel good story with a lot of depth and meaning. Like, I'm thinking the takeaway for teenagers, like, well, one, the side of I'm not alone. Other people are getting this too, right? Like, other people are things about them are being pointed out, just like on me. And two, getting the awareness out there for people to be like, why do I feel like I have the license to comment on how tall you are? Right? Because you're right. You being tall is like, that is so exciting. Do you play basketball? Where somebody that's fat, or I shouldn't say it like that, how rude, but overweight, because that's, that was my issue, is weight. I would never walk up to someone and say, like, do you eat a lot of pizza?
Right.
Like, so it's interesting. And I want to kind of explore that. And how do we get that message out there? Like, the awareness of why do I want to approach tall people and be like, you must play basketball?
Well, right. And it's this, this like, I mean, I've heard so many times, I just have to ask. I'm like, do you really have to though? Does your life depend on it?
Right.
Are you like, let me tell you what you have to ask before you ask?
You're like 6'8", 6'8".
Right. Or it's, it'll be, I know you get this all the time. I'm like, okay, so you have some awareness that this is annoying, but you're asking anyway. Here we are. You're asking me anyway. And I just always answer and smile, and, unless it's really rude, because there's that too. Like, damn, you're tall, bitch, just in the middle of the street, right? Or I'll get the cat calling, tall woman edition, right? So it's, so it's not always do you play basketball, So, and it's also, there's a lot there, but what always gets me is when people are, they're right next to me, or we can hear each other. We could make eye contact if we wanted to. And they're like, wow, she's so tall. I'm like, yeah, and she can hear you too. Like, it's like, she's
my hearing with it.
She's right here. So we have, my friends and I have fun with it. This happened I was at a coffee shop with a friend, and the person, checking us out, he was like, wow, she's so tall, saying this to my friend, and another friend was there, and they started saying like, wow, does she speak? Where's she from? They kind of went along with this whole thing. So we have fun with it. Sometimes when I'm with a short friend and someone screams from across the street, like, yo, miss, how tall are you? They'll answer and be like, 5'3". And then they're like, okay, that's not what I wanted to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think I was also I think I was just blessed with the right disposition for it all.
Yeah.
Because I know that not everyone, can just laugh it off. And so as hard as I am on myself, I think in just talking about it, I think I do realize that I can, let things roll off of me. So it's this interesting dichotomy, because I do, have this like massive fear of being judged by people. But at the same time, I'm okay that, people have commented on my physical appearance for my whole life. Right. So I don't know, there's a lot there.
Well, I was going to say that's probably a whole nother topic all on its own. I mean, the fact that you have a fear of people, I don't know if you said the word fear, but of people judging you, but judging you about how tall you are isn't an issue. Like, cause you already, that's an obvious, you're tall, right?
Right.
Right.
But I bet there's some other really deep rooted stuff that if people were to judge you about would really affect you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can do, a people-pleasing edition of this of this talk. It looks like we got the right group for it.
Yeah, oh boy.
Bunch of experts here.
Yeah, we're all
That is
living the
true.
dream. Let me just tell you, people pleasing dream for sure.
Yes.
So, oh
And
my
there's a
gosh,
few in our community
Katya.
that the same.
Oh, I am so grateful that you shared your evening. Thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so grateful that you guys are having me. This is so much
Yeah.
fun. And I do think, like, obviously I joke and like I love to talk about myself and whatnot. Like, don't we all? But
Right.
actually we don't all. But I think whenever I speak the story out loud, Crystal, like you said,
Yeah.
and sort of the heart, the bad injury and the college being hard and all of that, and I do always realize that I don't put myself in the victim position,
Right.
and so I think that's also a choice, right? So I think that's another important thing maybe for anyone, but I think for young kids too, that life will happen and then you can choose on how you tell your story, right?
Right.
And that's
So
up
true.
to you.
You
So
can choose how you live it. You can't necessarily choose what comes your way or thrown at you. But I learned this not too long ago, and I've been sharing this with all of my kids at school, is that you can control two things in your life, and that is your effort and your attitude.
Gratitude. Yeah.
And that's really been big for me, and I feel like it's been received really well. And you have obviously chosen a really good attitude with whatever has been thrown at you, and put 100% effort in, and that is obvious with your athleticism, and that the effort and attitude isn't about just athletics, but that you can see shines really bright.
oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, we are all heart sisters, aren't we?
We
Yes.
really are.
Yes.
Yay. And I'm serious about, and we'll talk later because I know Crystal has to get on with a student and all that, and the three of us will talk later, but just so our friends that are catching this replay and are with us live, I'm really serious about having another conversation and just
Love to.
yeah, I just think there really is, like, there's so much power in story itself, but just in learning from you, about, how the confidence and just everything that's come from this journey. There's so much, it's rich. It's a really rich conversation. It
Yeah.
is.
I suppose so.
Well, I
I know it
agree
feels
with you,
weird,
Sherra.
but it's so true. There's so many good lessons and takeaways.
Well,
So you-
like
So you
in
do
the
think I
notes-
have enough material for a TED Talk?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, you just got your assignment, didn't you all?
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yes. I mean,
Yes.
if you see in the comments, we've been doing a lot of talking, and usually our community, we like talk to them, and so they talk to us, but this has really been a little different. But like Debbie, she's thank you for sharing your story, and Laura is thank you and a great story. And it's, my daughter was sweating just listening to your surgery and
story.
yeah. So we do appreciate you, and your story is so it's valuable for others, and I personally grew listening and have some takeaways, and I do want part two. Katya, part two.
Yeah.
Aw, you guys are the
Yay.
sweetest. Sorry I
Katya,
took up
part
so
three.
much time. Yeah.
It's good.
No, don't be sorry. We could talk forever. We only limit it because we could talk forever, and people
Yes.
don't want to listen forever.
Shana can't wait for part two.
Yeah.
Yeah, me either,
and
actually. So
I made sure to send a message to my guy, and they are at T-Mobile. So I did have a little bit of extra time. So I'm not late to him. He
Okay.
will still get to
Okay.
practice.
good.
So that is good.
Good.
Awesome.
All right. I'm going to say thank you to our
Wait.
friends and sign
Wait.
up for. Oh,
What is Laura saying? I didn't mean it in an unkind way. What do you mean, Laura? Because we took it as a compliment.
Yeah.
yeah. You said thank you. Have a great story or great story.
Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that. That's really nice. Thank you, Laura.
No. Yeah.
She'll tell us. She must have had a thought.
Yeah.
No, we're all
Where
just
you're
here.
the best. You're like our. I love when you're on because I know you're going to be there for us.
I know.
Oh, she said, okay, good. So she's okay.
So something I said must have sounded like that when I read it, must have sounded like it was, I didn't take it right. But no,
Oh, yeah, no.
All good.
we're thankful. Yeah.
For sure.
I'm thankful.
Oh,
All
and by the
right.
way, I'm saying it out loud to all of our community. Sherra and I, we are going to New York, right, Sherra?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We are. Yeah.
I will give you the best tourist experience imaginable. And
Okay,
then
yeah.
also the authentic, New York.
Yeah.
We're going to do both.
I love that. Oh my
I want
gosh.
the pizza.
And then we can all coach each other and cry together.
Oh my
Doesn't that
gosh.
sound like a lovely time?
Oh, it sounds lovely. And Chris, yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to say goodbye to our friends and end tonight. And we'll see you next Monday.
Yes, you will.